Hey guys, welcome to the last part of Unit 10. It's 10.4. I'm very well aware that that says 10.5, but it's 10.4 because I redid some things and forgot to change that number. This is the fighting that goes on in the Balkans, Mediterranean, and Africa. So, Balkans and Mediterranean. So this is pretty much going to be Italy's campaign in the war, or it should have been Italy's campaign in the war. In about June of 1940. Italy is going to go in and invade the Balkans and North Africa, including kind of Greece in that whole scenario, and that's going to be a pretty big deal in terms of controlling the Mediterranean and trade and all that. So Greece is a focal point, especially the island of Crete, right off of the foot of Greece. Except Mussolini kind of sucks at going to war, so Hitler's got to send some German divisions into North Africa and the Balkans to help bail out Mussolini. The fight for Crete between Britain and Germany is going to be a pretty epic one. Germany gets into the fold in North Africa in the middle of 1940. Here we have a map of what's going on. All right, so the Balkans, obviously Greece is in the Balkans, but Greece is a kind of focal point of that theater of war. And then if we're to go south, we're going to hit northern Africa. So we're talking about the Balkans, Mediterranean as a whole, and North Africa. All right, here's Mussolini in North Africa. Some pictures, some stuff. I'm going to go quick. So I told you Greece was the focal point. That's going to be the focal point of like the Balkan fighting. The real focal point of World War II in this area of the world is going to be Egypt, solely because of the Suez Canal and what the Suez Canal connects. The Suez Canal. It's all about the Suez Canal. The British had Egypt. The British had control over the Suez Canal. The Axis powers, Germany and Italy, are going to be able to get their way into northern Africa, and they are going to start pushing the British back this way towards the Suez Canal. All right. The British knew that if they lost Egypt and the Suez Canal, they would lose their trade from India, and they would lose a lot of oil. Hold on one second. All right, back. So again, the fight over control over Egypt and the Suez Canal. Erwin Rommel is going to be the kind of commander of the German forces in northern Africa, in Tripoli, in Libya, stuff like that. Erwin Rommel is the Desert Fox. He earns his nickname in the war in North Africa. He is a great tank commander, and a lot of the fighting in Northern Africa is going to be done with tanks, right? It's not going to be kind of trench warfare or anything like that. It's going to be kind of tank-driven warfare. So you got the British. Bernard Montgomery is going to be the leader of the British, and then you got Erwin Rommel that's going to be the leader of the Germans. And Rommel, hold on. Everyone say hi to Mrs. G. She just walked in there. So Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, is going to become legendary for his efforts in Northern Africa. Hitler is going to love what he does there, and he is going to be the one responsible for pushing the British closer and closer and closer to Egypt and the ultimate Suez Canal, which was the goal for the Germans. This fighting really hurt the Allies a lot because the British forces were stretched so thin between defending Britain, between defending Greece, defending the Suez Canal. They were really spread thin. The German forces were spread thin as well, but they weren't as thin as the British, right? The Germans had kind of technological superiority, which made it a little bit easier for them. The real big kind of significance of the war in Italy is the fact that because Mussolini needed help, the Germans needed to divert divisions into the Mediterranean and North Africa, which is less divisions that could have gone into Russia for Operation Barbarossa. All right. If Italy did not need help in that theater of the war, then Germany might have been able to take Moscow before the winter, kind of like Hitler envisioned the entire time. So huge significance in terms of the Mediterranean and how it played out the rest of the war. By November of 1942, the Americans are going to be in the war. December 7, 1941 is when America comes into the war. November 1942, they're in the war for a year. D-Day has not happened yet, so there's no fighting in continental Europe as of yet. America's first kind of taste of war in the European theater is actually going to be Africa. A lot of people don't know that. They think that D-Day was the first, and it's not. Obviously, there's going to be fighting in the Pacific for a while, but they land in North Africa in Operation Torch. All right, that's an amphibious invasion of North Africa by the American forces. All right, the Americans are going to bring a lot of technology, a lot of a lot of supplies, and a lot of manpower to the African theater. And it's just going to be too much for the Germans to handle. That are spread thin. They are now in Russia as well. So the thinness of the Germans and the kind of abundance of Americans is going to change the tide of the war. And again, Operation Torch. Let me go back quick. Operation Torch is that amphibious invasion, right? Then we've got the turning point. Remember, 1942 is the year of the turning points. We've got the Axis powers expanding, and then in 1942, they begin contracting back in on themselves. The turning point in Africa is going to be the Battle of El Alamein. If we go back to our handy-dandy map, which was a couple slides ago, here is El Alamein, all right? So it's Egypt, right? If El Alamein fell, the Germans would have a pretty easy path to the Suez Canal, all right? So El Alamein, where are we? All right, so the Americans are here. The Americans are able to give hundreds of thousands of troops and all of the tanks and all of the technology, and we are able to defeat the Germans at El Alamein. All right, the Germans can never recover that loss, and they're going to start again, kind of shrinking back through North Africa, then up through Mediterranean, and the next part of this after the Battle of El Alamein. The Germans are going to surrender Africa. Rommel is actually going to be involved in trying to take Hitler's life because he feels like Hitler's to blame for a lot of the losses coming on. That's the story for another day. If we were in class, we'd talk about that a little bit more. Here is again some pictures of El Alamein, and again, the British are going to be able to push the Germans out of El Alamein completely. So the significance, it prevented Egypt from getting, it prevented the Germans from getting Egypt in the Suez Canal. It gave the Allies experience into amphibious invasions. This is going to be huge moving forward. If you don't know what I'm referring to, D-Day was that amphibious invasion. So they kind of got a lot of the kinks out in Operation Torch, in that amphibious invasion. And it also provides us with a target for the actual first fighting in continental Europe since the evacuation of Dunkirk. And again, that is not D-Day. That is going to be Italy, which is the next target. So after Northern Africa is cleaned up, the Allies are going to launch from Northern Africa, and they are going to go across the Mediterranean into Italy. So on September 8th, 1943, Italy is going to officially surrender World War II. All right. Here's where it gets a little bit messy. All right. When we talk about Italy, do I have it on here? No, I don't. When we talk about Italy, a couple things. Number one, Italy is a faction country, right? It's regionalized. You're going to have northern Italian troops that are identified as with Germany, right? They're very close to Germany. They're going to continue fighting with the Germans against the Allies and southern Italian troops that were eager to surrender because they never really wanted to go to war anyway. So the northern Italian troops and the Germans against the Americans, the British, and the southern Italian troops all the way up through 1945. All right. So even though Italy surrenders in 43, there is fighting in Italy all the way up until 1945, which is why the Americans are never able to invade Germany from the south, because northern Italy is still going to be occupied by Germans and northern Italian troops. So kind of if you can understand what just happened there. So again, there's going to be fighting throughout. Sicily falls very quickly. Italy falls very quickly. It's not much going on. This is where these are some pictures of Operation Torch, the landing points in which we can kind of come in behind the Germans. And there is so here are a picture of some Allied forces in Northern Africa. All right, and we take Northern Africa and we launch the invasions into both Sicily and Italy itself. Some more pictures. All right, here we have the Battle of Monte Cassino. All right, that's going to be one of the pivotal blows to Italy. When they lose that, the war is going to be inevitably over. Again, this isn't stuff that you really need to understand. That kind of after effects of World War II, right? And that's it. All right. So what you need to take away from this? One, I'm even going to write it for you guys. Let me get my pen. Got it. All right. One. Right? Germany is in North Africa. That's going to be a part of why they lose the war, right? Italy couldn't handle the job itself. Germany's got to come in. Germany dominates because of Erwin Rommel is going to dominate the kind of the Northern African theater. All right. Two. Operation Torch is going to be the kind of Allied invasion, the amphibious invasion into North Africa. Three. Why is this so bad? The Battle of El Alamein is the turning point of World War II in Africa. Again, Axis expanding, 1942 contracting. This is the turning point. And then four, Italy falls in 43. Those are the four big takeaways from this. Hopefully you guys understood it. Keep track of those chapter review questions to make sure you understand everything that's going on. And as always, be